Are you about to embark on your property journey but not sure about the best strategy to start with? If that's you, then this video might be what you've been waiting for and give you clarity on what to do next. Now, when I say what are the best strategies, I'm referring to the best routes for beginners to take if you are brand new to the industry, have less experience, or perhaps have less capital to start with. So if you are watching this and perhaps you're more experienced or you've got a large amount of capital, then this may not be the video for you, as I'd potentially make different suggestions. But now that's been said, I want to get straight into the 4 strategies which I believe are the best for beginners. And hang around till number 4, as this one is perhaps the most underrated and underutilized strategies in the whole of the property market. But starting straight off with number 1, we have buy to let. Now, when I say buy to let, clearly that's too obvious. So before you think I'm losing the plot, bear with me whilst I explain why I've chosen this as my first option. You see, the standard buy to let has been massively underrated in recent years, especially because people like me have been creating videos on the BRR strategy. We almost sell it as the better thing to do, the holy grail of property investing. Yet many people overlook the traditional buy-to-let. And for those of you who are getting started in property for the first time, perhaps you work full-time as well and you enjoy what you do, you earn a good income, don't forget the basics, because the vast majority of larger landlords have actually built up portfolios from buying, renting and holding property. The real wealth comes from rental profits and capital growth over extended periods of time. So before I move on to talking about other strategies in this video, I wanted to drive this point home. You see, in the current times, I'm able to source investments for clients where they might be able to invest 50 to 60,000 into the deposit and all the fees and the refurb and the refinance costs. But at the end, they'll get a large portion of that back, maybe leaving 20 to 25,000 pounds in. Sounds good, right? And yes, that is really good, but this also solidifies the benefits of purchasing properties that are ready to rent. In those same areas, we can actually purchase ready to go buy-to-lets that require just a total of 30 to 35,000. That includes the deposit and all the fees. Yet you don't have the additional stress, the longer time frames, and the potential risk that comes with the refurb. The decision between the 2 strategies really comes down to what is your preference? Are you after a quick acquisition and cash flow, or are you after recycling that capital? Now, that was strategy number 1. So moving on to number 2, we are talking about one of my favorites, sourcing. Sourcing is a fantastic way of getting started, but not for the reason that you might think. When I say property sourcing, most people jump to the conclusion that it's a good cash flow strategy, which it definitely can be, but after a lot of hard work and a lot of assisting clients through their purchases. But in fact, I believe in the power of sourcing for entirely different reasons. The experience, the skills, and the opportunity that it helps create. You see, the majority of first-time investors will attend 10 to 20 viewings, make 2 offers, and purchase their first property off the back of that. Now imagine that you are a sourcer, completing 40 calls to estate agents every week, attending 15 viewings every week, and making 8 offers every week. You repeat that process over and over again, week in, week out, and you basically have fast-tracked any learning, any experience, and you can do that 4 to 10 times quicker than any other regular investor. Not only do you learn things quicker, but you also experience and learn from your mistakes quicker. And lastly, you are building up the amount of opportunities that you see, so that when you have enough money to purchase your own properties, well, now you have access to deals every single week. Number 3 is going to be rent to rent. Whilst rent to rent is one of the 4 strategies that I'm sharing in today's video, this will be one of the shortest points because of 2 main reasons. Number 1, because I'm so excited to move on to point number 4, I want to move quickly. But number 2, because I do not personally have any rent to rent properties. I have worked with many friends and mentees on getting their own rent to rent deals over the line, but I have not got any of my own, and therefore I feel less qualified to be able to talk around this topic. But rent to rent should not be underestimated. Whilst a lot of people think it's the dark side to property, it's just often a misunderstood strategy, and actually the same form of arbitrage is used in many other business models, such as Uber for taxis, Truro, which is car hire, and of course Airbnb. And in fact, the majority of hotels also use this model. Usually they're renting like a larger commercial building and then effectively holiday let every room out as a hotel room. So rent to rent as a strategy is quite common, and it often offers a unique opportunity to quickly generate cash whilst gaining experience and also not owning any property. The reason I chose sourcing over rent to rent was only due to the fact that I wanted less risk, i.e. not having the liability of paying multiple rents each month. But I also have the good access to deals and investors. So sourcing was definitely the better route for me to take for multiple reasons. But ultimately, your own decision should come down to whether you have the time, whether you have the availability, and whether cash flow is more or less important than growing your own portfolio of properties. Now, I told you number 4 was the best. And last but not least, if you're a beginner, this is potentially the best strategy for you. And that is flipping, not flipping any home, but your own home. Now, I have saved flipping your own home until the end of this video, but this, in my opinion, is one of the most effective yet least talked about strategies in property investing. And you are basically going to be using your home as an investment tool. So what do I mean by this exactly? Well, I don't mean buying a home and living in it for 10 years, paying down the debt, as this is a slow and inefficient way in many cases. But what I do mean is purchasing a property for the right price, where you can add significant value through a refurbishment or an extension, and then either reselling it or refinancing the property at the end. Obviously, if you do refinance and keep it, then just remember that this property will now be in your personal name, and you'll need to check if that's tax efficient for you and your personal circumstances. Now, I've often asked myself, why is this strategy not talked about? But then it recently clicked. There are 2 main reasons why. Number 1, I can't actually sit here and tell you to purposely use your home as a flip, because obviously it'll save you on capital gains tax, you'll use less deposit, and you'll pay less in stamp duty. Hence why this strategy has to be used by people that are actually going to be living in the property and using it as a home for the months or years that you own it. So just to reiterate, this is not financial advice or a recommendation, nor am I encouraging people to do this specific strategy. It's just a very efficient one. So the second reason is that people that are selling a dream online can't sell you the dream of buying a home and adding value. There isn't really a dream or a product that can be built around it. But this doesn't mean it's not an incredibly profitable but also rewarding strategy. So if you are at the beginning of your journey and you've not yet utilized your own home purchase, then ask yourself, is this something I could do? Could I buy a home, add value and flip it? Could I buy a home, add value, refinance it? Now, if you've made it this far in the video, then I appreciate you. I want to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you in next week's video.